it. We came.
It's just a puzzle box!
Oh no. It is a means to summon us.
Hello and welcome to the Book by Book, a podcast about the odd book or two you've read. We're your hosts, Toby and Scott, and this episode we're talking about The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. It's going to be a fairly spoiler-heavy episode, so if that's okay with you, continue on, and I'll see you on the other side.
No tears, please. It is a waste of good suffering.
Good suffering.
Hey, all. Morning, Toby. How are you?
Hello, I'm very okay. Very okay. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. How are you, Scott?
Pretty good. Hell of a day yesterday. But actually, I'll cut that because I don't really need to talk about that. Just a bit of a rough one. I'm good,
Okay.
thank you, Toby. How are you? Early
Good.
here. I guess 9 on a Sunday, which isn't that early for a lot of people in the world. 9
No.
is actually asleep even on a Sunday.
Bearable.
It was a late one. I think we were up to like 2 or something.
Wow.
Not
That's
partying,
all right.
we were just watching TV. Just
Oh, okay.
put on Papillon,
Mm-hmm.
and it's quite a long, slow film, but I really like it. Classic sort of Stephen McQueen. That's not.
Okay.
I didn't really know too much about the writer. I didn't realize the writer sort of wrote it as something that happened to him, I believe.
Yeah.
And sort of through all his other years in life was like, this is me, this is my story, but it's quite well recorded that like, no, that's that sort of era of history in the prison was quite, we still have the records that you just made it up. And then on his deathbed, they were like, can you just admit it wasn't true? And he said, no. I mean, maybe it was, you never know. I guess it probably wasn't the most
Okay. I don't know the
powerful
story.
record
I
keeper.
don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh, it's like I'm not sure what era actually, but he just sort of went to prison around the, is it Guyana, French Guiana, north of South America. Just a really horrible prison. You probably had I don't know, a third of the people probably died just of like malaria, just brutal
Right.
tropic conditions.
Yeah.
And I think big parts of it where he spent years in isolation. Like he just
Okay.
kept trying to escape, and every time they caught him, it was like do a 2-year stint in isolation, and then he tried to escape again. It's like, okay, now you're 5 years in isolation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's not a nice story. My partner was like, "Can we watch
No.
something less depressing next time?"
Mhm. Did he escape?
True or not? Spoiler alert. Yeah, he did.
Hey, go on
But I
then.
haven't read the book. I guess I've been meaning to. I've always been like intrigued by this story, real or
Hmm.
not. But the Papillon, and they did a remake with who's the guy from Bohemian Rhapsody? Sort of
Oh,
Rami Malek.
yeah, Malek. Yeah.
He was the Dustin Hoffman character with Charlie Hunnam
Okay.
as the cool
Yeah.
Steve McQueen. It was all right.
Yeah.
Didn't
Okay.
really bring anything new to it. A lot of films. Did you see the Crow trailer? You're a big Crow fan. Where are you on? But you hate Crow sequels and remakes ever since. And there's been a
Yeah.
handful. There's been about
Yeah,
3
and none
sequels.
of them have been any good. The TV series is probably about the only thing that's bearable in that sort of canon of Crow fodder. The first in the original with Brandon Lee is a masterpiece, a classic, even of its time. Looking at it now with its janky effects and still holds up. It's a cracking film, wonderfully shot, beautifully realised, great adaptation.
Interesting.
And then you have this travesty.
Oh, the new. You're not a fan of the new?
And not in the slightest.
Oof.
I do not understand why we've gone with. I basically I mirror everything that everybody else is saying about it. It didn't need to be remade as Eric Draven. They should have just left that.
Like gone in a
as
new
character.
direction. Like,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
Crow is like this cyclical thing that like now it's someone else's vengeance story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then they could have got away with this little peep looking Joker, Jared Leto style. Oh, just
I guess the biggest thing I found funny was that everyone's like, "Where's the rock music, yo?" You've sort of like modern
gangster.
See, I
synth
really
rap.
enjoyed The Crow, but I never thought it was a masterpiece. It was
right.
just in this pop
Toby
of
has left the chat.
really nice 90s films. and it really caught that era of like MTV kind of hip young, almost alternative films for the younger adult, but with very adult themes, I guess, especially The Crow. But I was having this conversation recently, which I obviously you're not going to agree with. If Brendan Lee hadn't have died, would that film be what it is? Has it become a memoriam, and is it a cult hit because of everything surrounding it? You're going to say no because you love everything about it, clearly. And don't get me wrong, I really do like that film.
It's definitely revered because of largely because of his death, but I still think for its time it did something that nothing else was doing. It stood out it stood alone.
Because it nailed the goth feel in the sort of action young, like I guess Tim Burton was doing it, but it was more sort of comical feel, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Wonderment feel.
Similar eras to Tim Burton's Batman's, wasn't it? But it just took that to another level.
I guess it made it dark. Like Tim Burton always felt gothic, but actually not dark. I guess the second one, the Paint one, was kind of dark, but
yeah, but still, it had that. I don't know. It was a graphic novel adaptation rather than a comic book adaptation.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Yeah,
not the difference.
Cool. I guess we will not be reviewing the Crow remake on this podcast anytime.
Well, maybe we will, so that we can just lambast it. Oh, you know what? I'm not gonna. There were some redeeming factors to that trailer. The level of blood and the goriness of it was quite interesting.
An R-rated trailer.
There was some interesting stuff in the Nether Realm.
Oh, okay. I think maybe you paid more attention than me.
And there was a line in there that you're running out of time to save her.
Oh yeah, I did get the feeling they were putting his wife partner in there more than she would have. Like, she's in memories only, right? She's sort of, spoiler alert, but it's a vengeance tale.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting. Like, what do they mean by save her? Is it a soul that he's attempting to save from damnation?
Maybe it's just a sneaky line, and it's just got another character they're talking about.
Yeah, quite possibly. But it'll be interesting.
Oh, so you are going to see it?
I will watch it on VOD. Yeah.
Nice. Talking of like, I guess that's more 90s, but talking of like gothic stuff. Does that segment work? Kind of, that'll do. Talking of
segue alert.
Famous films that have a following,
and books,
and then the book what it was based on. We're actually here this episode to talk about Clive Barker's The Hellbound Heart, more commonly known as Hellraiser. More commonly known as that dark VHS you saw in the video store with the guy with all the nails in his head.
Yeah.
Also known as Pinhead. There's a lot of associations in that intro. We talked about this a few times, but it's because it's so stand out to me. I just remember being a kid browsing around Blockbuster Video, hitting that horror section and just being blown away by the cover was enough. I saw it at the young enough age to go, I want to watch it, but I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it. And
the cover, the iconography of this film is the thing that people remember the most, rather than the actual. That's directly relating to the film, the quality of the film, but the visuals and all of that really do pop.
And I think I sort of remember catching back in the day, young listeners, when you rented VHSs or bought a VHS even. Which DVD sort of clipped out was you had trailers, you had like coming soon also to rent or buy. So you had trailers. And for example, on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles VHS, there was this trailer for a film about a guy's computer that becomes sentient and helps him date. And it just stuck with me because I watched that Turtles film all the time. So I'd watch this trailer film. It didn't become a famous film. I can't remember its name, but years back, I was just quoting it with a friend because we were joking about it. And so I found it on YouTube, and all the comments were, is anyone else here? Because they had it on the Turtles VHS. Most of the comments were, never seen it, probably never will. I just had the trailer. So it's really bizarre, I suppose, that something made such an impact without kind of getting any hit itself. And I do remember, anyway, this is my point. I remember seeing some Hellraiser trailers.
Right. Okay.
What we consider now as teaser trailers, just very short, non-graphic, but just being that is some adult stuff right there as a kid.
Yeah,
like
that
I've
looks too
seen some
scary for
horror
me.
stuff, and that is beyond, you know.
Yeah. Yes, I completely concur.
And then the subsequent 30 sequels, which the more you deep dive, the more you go, oh, okay, wow, they've really just.
Yeah, I think there's like a total of 14 sequels to Hellraiser. Some form or shape of form. Books,
I think the first
films, short
2 or
films.
3 are directly linked. The second one is definitely a direct sequel.
The first 3 are all from the same sort of canon, as it
like
were.
Kirsty, the survivor character from 1 is in 2. So
who's in 2, yeah. I remember seeing 2, and that's the one that I remember more of than I ever remember of the first one. Because I've seen 1, 2, and 3, and they all kind of blur into one another.
Right.
There's a lot of chains. There's a lot of people exploding with flesh, and then there is I'll tear your soul apart, and then there's Kirsty.
Yeah.
And I rewatched the first one for this podcast, and Kirsty was in it. I was like, I remember you. You do a lot of running around in this sort of mazy type area, and then that didn't appear, and I was like, whoa, well, what? Why? Where do I remember that from? Because surely she's not in the sequel. And then I did a little recap, and there, lo and behold, there was the maze, and there was Kirsty in the sequel. So, yeah. And then a lot of the blood and stuff I remember, the gore, and there was like the mattress and everything was from the third one, because I remember seeing the beginning of the third one. So it all happened a very long time ago. They mashed up together.
Plays out. Sometimes the what we think is the iconography is sort of squashed into the first one because it's the first one. But fairly recently, I watched the very first Pink Panther film, and it doesn't have any of the sort of famous Peter Sellers trademarks that you think it would.
Oh, okay.
I think it was David Niven was sort of the star of that one, and Peter Sellers. You know what I mean? It wasn't. It didn't have. It was just not. It wasn't that good. And I'm further like, what? I thought this was better. And I'm further like looking into it. So no, the sort of famously the sequels are more have that sort of shtick from him, and he became more of the star. Like he is in the first one a fair bit, but I think he shares screen time. Like it wasn't the Inspector Clouseau show,
right?
It was split with the Pink Panther, for example, and yeah, I don't know, because I guess my partner hadn't seen the Alien films, and we watched 7 recently. So talking about David Fincher, and I was saying like recently for me there was an interview when he talked about Alien 3. Which is something he never does. So I was, oh wow, like finally talking about it. And it was like they were talking about iconography from his career. So they pulled up the shot with the alien in Sigourney Weaver's face, the shaved head, and that's the third Alien, which everyone, well, up to that point, everyone was like, this is terrible, this is the worst one. The director wrote it off, etc., etc. But that image of the alien in Ripley's face with the skinhead is probably one of the most famous shots from those films.
Yeah,
and it's from the film that everyone hated,
that,
people
definitely.
don't like, or like I refuse to watch it again. You know, diehard fans are like, I don't even count that one. Yet the iconography is from that.
Yeah, yeah. Going back to Hellraiser, I do. I don't. This go well. Linking it directly to The Crow, actually, the way that I think The Crow holds up over time, I'm not sure. I don't know where I got the idea that Hellraiser was scary from when watching the film.
Oh yeah.
Back now, yeah, I didn't think it was remotely. It was gory, and there were moments where I had to look through closed fingers because it was just like, oh, that is just rank. But actively scary, there was just nothing.
I guess just these really, I guess in the film they're not so nonchalant, but these really quite casual leather-bound aliens just with their faces torn apart. Like, I don't know. I can see why. Just the visuals. I guess that we were talking about is like the difference between like visual horror, just like, yeah, that's gross. You could just show an open wound and that has the same effect as this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's something about it. I mean, anything with an eternity for me is terrifying.
Mm.
The fact that you can get stuck in this world and that's it.
Mm.
That would have done it for me.
Right.
I don't know. I guess let's get into it.
Yeah. Let's go.
Where are you on Clive Barker? Have you read anything of his before, or is it pretty much
I
Hellraiser?
want to say
He's the guy
Tipping
what
the
did
Vein.
Oh, Tapping the Vein?
Tapping the Vein, yeah, which is
Is that a music video?
No, it's a comic, like a graphic novel. I read that. That was really gory. Again, very gory. Yeah, I don't know if I've read much. I can't remember. I don't remember reading too much of his. I did listen to the audiobook of Hellbound Heart. I know that he's notoriously very gory and graphic in his detailing. Other than that, yeah, very little.
This is my first one. I have a couple on my shelf.
Okay.
I've been meaning to. It's funny. But my partner's been reading. She's a big fan of. I don't know, Leanne Moriarty. I don't know if you saw 9 Perfect Strangers and Big Little Lies. She does these sort of dramas with a bit of a hook, a bit of a twist, sort of mystery-ish. And there's a Stephen King quote on all her books.
Oh, really?
I love this. And it's like that thing where I think he quoted one book and now
yeah,
you sort of apply it as a quote to the author. And, we sort of joke that, a lot of like, God, it's like, it's so out there, it means nothing. But the reason why it's like it can was that Stephen King, I think, really helped put Clive Barker on the map.
Okay.
In regards to this novel, that the Hellraiser novel was called The Hellbound Heart, he said Clive Barker is the future of horror.
Woof.
And once that quote came out, he said it went from a middling book that was going to be forgotten to I'm like an international seller. It literally overnight made him a sensation. So you sort of forget, like, I think Stephen King maybe is like, he likes to give back. He's clearly a reader fan. He clearly loves to read other people's work. He talks about a lot of other writers a lot. And so he's not afraid to, I guess, help people out and say, I love this book. Yes, you can use that quote. Now we're in the sort of 24,000s, the 2024. It's like, okay, yeah, you're right. If you Googled every book he's been a part of, it's just like, there's no rhythm or rhyme. Some of these didn't become anything. Like, this is just like it's really like, it's not like it's a mark of good horror to see the name. But
no.
It can really help make a writer.
And carry credence back then.
It helped put Clive Barker on the map, or got him the international fame that led on to open doors and stuff, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I think that the history behind this Hellbound Heart was that he had a few screenplays he wrote that he hated. He just thought were terrible. I think Rawhead Rex, which I haven't seen, and some other ones I've not quite heard of. And it seems like he sort of wrote this to be adapted. Like he wanted to do something for himself. And I kind of feel that when I read it a bit, like it feels like, if you ever read a novelization of a book written after the film, it kind of has that feel to it, which isn't the case. The film is adapted from this novel.
Yeah. Sorry, I've just lost you.
Oh no!
Completely.
Visually.
I can't see anything. I can't find you.
Down.
Yeah, I've done something, and you've just
I did
vanished.
see your eyes darting. I was wondering.
Yeah, like, where's it gone?
Nice. Let me hit it with the sum up. This can be a sort of, it feels like this is a messy one so far.
Yes, it's been ripped apart.
Why don't we move on to the summary, a quick summary, synopsis and Toby's roundup review. In a quiet house on a quiet street, Frank and Julia are having an affair. Not your ordinary affair. For Frank, it began with his own insatiable sexual appetite, a mysterious lacquered box, and then an unhinged voyage through a netherworld of imaginable pleasures and unimaginable horror. Now, Frank, or what's left of Frank, waits in an empty room. All he wants is to live as he was before. All Julia can do is bring him her unfulfilled passions and a little flesh and blood.
Nice. Beautifully delivered.
Here we go. We're going to just go for some. Oh no, that's really long.
Welcome to the
This one's more about the movie. Let's do a quick Toby's Roundup review. Here's a 5-star review by LTJ. The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker is the first book I've ever read by this legendary author, and I truly regret not reading anything by him sooner. Yeah, I kind of echo that actually. I do sort of feel that. Like, oh man, I had no idea what I was getting myself into once I started on this journey with the legendary Hellraiser franchise. Let me tell you, it has been quite some time since I had a thrill like this while reading horror, and it often felt to be too good to be true. Oh no! Oh, I sort of opened up. It's really long. Before I begin, that's like before I begin my review. I give Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker a perfect 5 out of 5 for being a horror masterpiece. This was an astonishing book, and I can easily see how talented Barker is as an author. To see Barker achieve so much in just 176 pages was phenomenal, especially in getting a slasher, paranormal, and brutal horror reading experience to be so thrilling. I can't wait to see what awaits in Hellraiser, The Toll, and The Secret Gospels, which are the sort of sequel books, I believe, as I will continue my journey and complete this trilogy. I'm starting the second book the minute I'm done writing this because it's all so compelling. I'm also excited to read more about the infamous Pinhead himself, the Hell Priest.
The Hell Priest. Okay, I got a 1-star for you. Let's throw it. Ginny, 1-star. Well, kind of hated this. Horror isn't normally my genre, but I can take a perverse delight in a scare every now and then. This, however, wasn't suspenseful at all. Instead, the horror mostly lies in the grotesque body maiming on display. Resounding meh. At one point, I realized I was reading the climactic scene and noticed that I wasn't feeling any tension at all. Characterizations were flat, dull, and unrealistic. If there is anything interesting about the theme, it's the connection between libertinism and pain. Libertism. That's a new word to me. Libertism and pain. Unfortunately, it comes with an unhealthy dose of sex-negative politics on the evil woman who messes around is evil and probably a murderess who would do anything for sex, while chastising sappy puppy dog women is the win. To win. Yeah. So basically, she's got a point.
I mean, they're not wrong.
No.
I guess this is what you were talking about, like the difference between horror and gore. Gore film isn't necessarily a scary film. About novel. Have you?
Yeah. We've got another 1-star. This book reads as if it was written by a pretentious 15-year-old trying to sound clever. I had put it in the bin, the outside bin, not the recycling one either. That's a great review. That was from who was that from? Where's he gone? Sorry, I've lost you. There you go. That was from Illich.
Nice. Interesting. I guess I would have expected that.
Yeah.
I guess there's something quite juvenile, like quite often with authors' very first books. What I like about them, we did not too long ago, Song of Kali by Dan Simmons. I'm a huge fan of. I think The Long Walk is King's. It's not his first book, but it's the book that he wrote at university. I think that he was the book he wrote at his youngest. And there is a very cool rawness, and the same with this one to it, certain fearlessness, but to all three of those, a certain immaturity, I suppose, as a writer.
Naivety, maybe, yeah.
But
did you say this is his first ever book?
I think this is his first book. No, this is the first thing he wrote and published.
Right. Okay.
And then I think he moved on to the Books of Blood. Because I think he was a screenwriter first, and he was sick of not getting his work where seen as he wanted it to be, or very much like King, just like these are terrible adaptations. So I think he wanted to get a story out that couldn't be messed with, and then he got the opportunity.
I know it was definitely his first directing opportunity. Directing opportunity. Which is, considering he released this and then a year later he was directing it as a film, it's quite cool. I mean, that's a hell of a turnaround. He had a budget of like £1 million.
Which he maxed out now visually for that film. I thought, like, wow, this is better than some horror films. visually,
Yeah.
graphically, I suppose.
So yeah, it was made on a budget of 1 million, but it brought in 20 million. It was his directing debut, and he'd only made 2 short films before this.
Wow, good on him.
Which I thought was, yeah, fair play. And the actual origins for the story, the actual, the novel or the novella, was largely inspired by Barker's own experiences with sex, sadism, masochism, and the queer culture of the 70s. While not everyone thinks The Hellbound Heart as an example of queer horror, the book is influenced by Barker's own sexuality as a gay man and is drawn upon from his time working with kink. Which, yeah,
it's pretty obvious that one.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe if as a kid, if I'd have read it as a kid, but reading it now for the first time, it's pretty clear. What the sort of sex dungeons, I suppose, was visited.
Yeah, chains, handcuffs.
So I think, as we said, it's a very short novella, under 200
Yeah,
pages.
it was very short. Yeah, it was, the audiobook was only 3 hours and 9 minutes, I think.
Did you get a good reader? I've heard he does his own reading, which is quite good, but I think there's a lot on YouTube. So like, there's a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I was listening to what this is. Well, this is one of the differences that got me. That then I realized didn't need to get me because it was just me. I watched the film first, and then I listened to the audiobook. And because the audiobook wasn't organized into chapters, which I thought it was, I listened to the chapters 1 and 2, maybe 3, and then it jumped to chapter 8 when Kirsty's Kirsty was outside the house and saw the Julia taking the woman into the house, and then it jumped back again. And that way of hearing the novel was really interesting because because it felt like, because I'd seen the film, there's all these deaths that I hadn't been explored in the book, but they jumped to the final death where she goes to the house and finds everything and uncovers all of this and then chucks the box out the window. And then it went back in time to when Julia first started going out and pulling people into the house, and then it rocketed through and the relationship building.
Teased something.
Yeah. And it worked quite well, actually. It made it even more interesting than it actually probably was. What I did like about this was the style of writing. I thought that was really cool. It's very, as one of the reviewers put it, pretentious 15-year-old, but it was like somebody really dancing with words and using them quite.
It was enjoyable. It was like I think reading at this age, it was just fun to read. I don't like it's very flawed. You can get into it. I think the negative review you read, it was like, yep, I'm sort of nodding, agreeing to all of it, but it didn't mean it wasn't enjoyable for me, I suppose.
Yes.
It almost like, like we're talking about The Crow. If I was to watch The Crow now, I haven't seen it for about 10 years. I think I would really enjoy it, but the flaws would be evident. But like exactly that, like you can watch, old stuff and enjoy it without it being good or great.
Yeah, I think the naivety, or for want of a better word, in the book and the writing is also mirrored in the directing and the sort of the budget level of the film. The two suit each other really quite well. There was only very few changes as well, which I was quite impressed by. It largely follows the narrative of the book.
Yeah, I think so. It sort of felt like the book was written for this, no? Like, I can see why it was greenlit so quickly. It wasn't like, how the hell this is unadaptable. It's like, okay, you could tell he was a screenwriter, I suppose. It felt like I was saying, like he took a screenplay and turned it into a novel. Something about this. Well, I would say something about the structure, but actually there are issues with like, oh no, these characters who are maybe the lead are now stepping away. Or who's this new person? You don't really know them. Okay, they're in charge now in the last quarter.
That was largely, I think, having watched the film first and then read the book. I go again with one of the negative comments. I agree with the sort of blandness of the characters. They weren't really fleshed out. I didn't feel for the death of the husband at all when he gets his skin ripped off and Frank's walking around wearing it. Just okay.
I guess that was more of like the M. Shyamalan twist, right? It was that I don't think we were supposed to know it was him for a moment. There was supposed to be a moment where like, oh, they've defeated the villain off screen. Everything's okay now, but we're sort of given
Modern audiences,
maybe, yeah. I guess I don't know if we're normally. I feel like I'm included in where
savvy
they're like,
to it.
no, we're meant to know. It's like Hitchcock's Hitchcock on the
We've seen,
birds.
we've seen Hannibal Lecter.
Mm.
Been done before. Do you know, did this come before or after Hannibal Lecter? Do you reckon this is where they got the idea? You got the idea from?
Oh, I don't know. I think before.
I would say before.
Hmm.
But yeah, it didn't. I wasn't surprised. I didn't remember that as a twist. So when I saw it on screen for the first time, I was like, "Oh, that's Frank." Instantly.
Yeah,
His
I mean, it's hard because
crustaceans around the outside of his head and everything. It just looked all off. And
but I guess it's tricky because, like we said, if this was a mid 80s, 83 or later,
yeah,
it would seem odd for us that they've concluded the movie off screen and we've just been told everything's all right. It's very hard to comprehend seeing this for the first time because you're already probably quite senses heightened from what you've visually been watching on screen.
yep.
So it's very hard to comprehend what a first time viewer would have got from that.
Yeah.
Or there's, like I said, you're meant to suspect it. Because saying Hitchcock says like guy sitting there and then a bomb goes off under the table is a surprise to us. Show us the bomb with a timer before and now we're on edge. You know,
That's exactly. Yeah. No, that's exactly it. Yeah.
So that I do feel like maybe it's something where the audience is going, no, something's not right. This isn't the structure of movies we know. He's acting not how Frank normally acts. Get out of there, girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A certain joy in like, oh God.
Run. There's a one of the going back to like sort of talk about the changes between the book and the film. In the book, Kirsty is just a friend, whereas in the film she's the daughter.
I think it works better in the film.
Yes, it does work better in the film, but because I watched the film first and then was listening to the book, it further hammers home that the characters weren't defined enough because she just felt like exactly the same person. And I didn't realize that she wasn't the daughter until after doing some research.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, completely missed that.
Are there not some clear bits where she's sort of a little bit in love with Frank? But she clearly has a crush on him.
Well, not Frank, his brother.
Not Frank, sorry. There's a lot of name changing in this. It's
Rory.
Rory, yeah. Is there not scenes where she's clearly in love with Rory in the book? Like she's clearly not in love with him, but has a crush on him from like a crush.
From a distance. Yeah, maybe, but I didn't really pick up on it enough. But it's definitely a good change. You're right. In the film, it works for the film.
At least if you're going to do it this way, go into it more. Like it felt like she had all her scenes cut from the first half of the book. So when she sort of takes over the book, it's really late into it. And we're thinking, and like you were saying, that the film is so visually striking. Even though it's been a long time since I'd seen it, it's really hard to cleanse your palate and read the book. Because even when descriptions are same, like the box in the book is just plain.
Right.
No markings. They make that really clear. And clearly in the film it has like gold, like cool gold design and stuff. It's just something that probably was, when they're in production, like, okay, this is cool, but it doesn't look as good as it could be. Even though I'm being told it's plain, I'm still visualizing the gold box.
Shimmery thing. Yeah.
Pinhead's voice is described as sounding like a little girl. This is ridiculous. Really hard to know. We'll tear your soul apart. I wonder if they tried it and it was comical. I don't know, or just Doug Pinhead's voice was just so cool. It's like we gotta use this.
Yeah. Going back to changes, let's talk about the changes. One of the big changes and one of the daftest, well, not daftest, but daft changes was the engineer.
Yeah. Oh,
who isn't Pinhead?
Was Daft in the film?
Yes. In the book, Kirsty doesn't disappear into that corridor round.
Really?
Yeah. So the changes with the engineer being that big lizardy thing that chases her down the corridor.
Oh, see. But is that something or just you interpreted? I figured in the movie when she's chased by the big headed blob, it was just like a cool, like, hey guys, we've got budget, and the book's famously like a bit of a anticlimactic ending. Let's have some wow factor.
No, I'm pretty sure that's meant to be the engineer. And then again at the end, in the real world, the homeless guy, he's the engineer as well.
Oh, okay. Because the book
steps into the fire and picks up the
right.
into a
He was
dragon.
sort of demonic.
Yeah.
Order of the Gash.
Yeah.
Long.
Because like at the end of the book, Kirsty's like she's escaped and she's walking back down the road on her own, and then this person just comes up and pinches the box off her.
Oh, I thought it's like, this is yours now. You're the keeper of the box. People will seek you out for it. You're just the person who passes it on to the next very curious, kinky person. See, the engineer in the book was nothing to me. It reminded me of that 11/22/63 Stephen King book, where when he makes that sort of timekeepers, and we get some obscure explanation that it's just too late and we don't care.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
And in the book, it's like the wife's head. Is that right? The wife's head just starts talking, even though she's been decapitated, and it's like, I am the engineer. Like, okay.
Yeah.
You didn't do anything with it? No. It's like he ran out of time. It's like he was on a deadline and he wanted to go, or he was sequel baiting, but it was just, I guess, just trying to show that there's some order to this chaos. But it didn't really do anything for me, that particular.
It's very muddled.
Like, I guess I didn't really need an engineer. It was just pretty clear what was going on. Some very famous quotes in this, very cool quotes. A little bodge from the film. I think that the film makes a few of them better. Like, we'll tear your soul apart. It's just perfect, which doesn't quite.
He says it once as well, doesn't he?
And I think in the book it's just slightly different. To me, it's like something is very simple. In the book of Lord of the Rings, it's like, you will not pass.
Yeah.
And in the film, it's you shall not pass.
Shall not pass.
And there's just something more magnificent about that slight change. And I think this is the same. But I think the real one I love is like, no tears. It is a waste of pain. Stuff like that. It's just really fun. And like I said, it's impossible to not picture Pinhead's voice, even though you're being told it doesn't sound like that.
Yeah. He did a really good job, that guy, didn't he? Ray Bradbury. Is it Ray Bradbury? That's the guy who played Pinhead, wasn't it?
I don't think Ray Bradbury, but something like that. Yeah. Doug.
Pinhead guy. Doug Bradley. Doug
Bradley is the one. We mixed them all together.
Ray Bradley, he wrote the books, didn't he?
Yeah, he's the Fahrenheit 451 guy.
Just a little fact on old Clive Barker's writing process, which I thought would be quite interesting. He does 3 drafts, handwritten, and then types it up.
Oh.
They are different from each other. They are hopefully improvements in the sense you're going back over something. The first time you write it, it's the first thing that you can think. The second time, you're trying to shape the dialogue and helping the characters.
Nice
quote.
I mean, as much as I enjoyed this book, I can't imagine how terrible that first draft was.
Yeah.
I guess, but there's absolutely no shade to that. I feel like you're someone, for example, who tries to nail it as early as possible.
Yeah.
Whereas I really like the Neil Gaiman quote, like, write your first draft like no one's watching, because they're not. Like, don't like, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be embarrassing. I think of the fact that Gaiman says, like, I burn my first drafts.
Yeah.
It's just to get it out on my head and on paper. I think it's a great quote. But there are some, I think, I don't know, we talked about before, I'm sure, about writers who only do a couple drafts, and some who, like the percentage of stuff that keeps is very different for different authors, for sure. I was wrong. This is not his first book. I think The Damnation Game is his first.
Okay.
This is, I don't know, for a second, I found it's that for sure. I couldn't find a clear line of his biography, because I guess it's like when Stephen King's compilations come together. It's like, oh, this Dream Seasons book was released in 1996, but it's a collection of short stories he wrote. Some of them go back to like the late, you know what I mean, like a decade earlier. So trying to find where stuff was written in a clear timeline. It's not that messy. I was just wrong.
Yeah.
I was just lazy, listener. Give me a break.
Here's another interesting tidbit. During an interview, and I don't know, I agree with this, but Doug Bradley described hell as a prison. The Xenobites are the prison guards. Pinhead is the prison warden. The puzzle box is the key to the prison cell, and the demons are escaped inmates.
Oh, interesting. See, I guess for me, I sort of guess I saw this almost as cosmic horror. Like we interpret where they are as a sort of hell, but they're not for them. They're just like, what are they sort of like? We are interdimensional explorers of the fifth dimension of the Gash, just out there. I do love that setup. I do love the idea of Frank thinking, "Hey, I'm getting pretty kinky.
Yeah,
I want to just go beyond. I want to go beyond. I want to go beyond." And then just crossing these people who are like, no. It's almost like the words don't mean the same thing. Their idea of pleasure, the word just, you can't use the word pleasure with these guys. That's a terrible mistake to make. This is like a first contact meeting, and you've basically misunderstood the meaning of words, and you're going to pay a terrible price. I guess there's a really fun bit where he says, I guess he was more into S&M, being the S&M dungeon master. It's like, oh, you guys are kind of repulsive and ugly. I was sort of thinking like a bunch of virgins were going to come out, and that was going to be the pleasure. I don't know why he goes, life's short, let's do this anyway. But what unfolds for me is the most fun, best bit of the book, where it's like his senses are heightened. And he just describes being in the room as this happens, and he can, even though the room, it's like their grandma's house, so it's like a a very old house. He can smell the paint, and then it becomes the point where it's like, it's just too strong. You can see like hair follicles, and it's like, it's a little bit gross, this close. And at one point, he sees a lice. You can just see, like, when you get under the microscope and see something, a bug close up. It's like, that is kind of monstrous. Thank God they're tiny and microscopic. There's a really fun bit where he just describes a lice eating on like a corpse. He's made this sort of sacrificial layer of dove heads, piss, and I don't know, upside down crosses or something similar to that. He's just sort of like, oh God, and his senses overload. And that's just like, this is just the preparation. We haven't even begun.
And it sort of stops, doesn't it? It comes to an end. He's just like, woof, and then they come in with, "You are now ready." You're like, oh shit.
I guess he sort of goes to the next level of sensory feeling.
That was the peak of what your world has to offer. Now realize the full potential of desire and pain with us.
And what I didn't remember, because I watched the film after we read the book in the last week, was just the other Cenobites, how detailed they are. Actually isn't the most detailed. There are some awesome, and one's described in the book as having like little pins that hold his lips back to make him look like a baboon. That guy kind of made it into the movie and matches that description. I guess him being in the movies, I wonder if it was written with VFX in mind. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of the reason why Pinhead has more dialogue than like in the book, and especially in the film, is because of those effects.
He was the only one who could speak.
Yeah, he was basically the only one that could speak. So they funneled a lot of the lines through him, giving him the "I'll tear your soul apart" line that went on to become iconic.
I do think the film did a flipping amazing visual effects job.
Considering
Skeleton Frank, when he's just like skin and like bones and a bit of skin, was stunning. I was not expecting him to look. I do not remember him looking that bloody good. The puppet, I suppose, stunning, and then the upping layers of him eating flesh of people,
becoming more filled out and
great. Even there was what's now considered quite cheese when she opens the box and like the electricity lines, really
blue lines,
fit the film, in my opinion.
Here you go. So there's a fact on that. Many viewers have commented about the poor quality of the FX at the end of the movie. Clive Barker has explained that due to a very limited budget, there was no money left to have the VFX done professionally after the primary filming. Instead, Barker and a geek guy animated these scenes by hand over a single weekend.
What's all the electricity lines, as it were, from the box?
Yeah. Which is quite impressive.
It's kind of a big difference in the book, is that in the movie she has to fight them off literally with a box gun.
Yeah. Bashes them around the head with it.
Just sort of shoots at them. I would just be like, her life's over now. I can't remember what happens in the sequel, but would you not just be fearful? You'd be in a madhouse. No, you'd be like, yep, interdimensional beings. I just have my name, and they're sort of. I'd always feel like they were trying to get back, come and get me. I would probably put that box in a big steel safe, charter a ship, and chuck it out to sea. I don't know why.
Basically, I think by and large, in the sequel, she is in, I believe, an institution or something similar to an institution. She ends up in an institution, and then the doctor that's looking after her becomes obsessed with the box and opens it up. And then she goes in to rescue her dad. That's what I vaguely remember.
Oh, well, he's
I might be
in Hellland.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. That's what I vaguely remember. I might be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's in there for some reason. Would you watch the sequels?
I did, like, when we started working from home during the lockdown, I got my Shudder subscription.
Right.
Like, work was really quiet for a while, so I sort of just watched. Probably very mentally unhealthy to just watch horror films all day, if I'm honest. But I think I watched the first 3 almost back to back.
Okay, so is her father
4 or 5 years ago? I don't remember.
Oh, brilliant.
But I just remember those ones are connected, and subsequently, not all of them, but the latter ones, Hellworld and Deader, a lot of them became contraction films.
Right.
And there was a good handful, at least 2, where basically Pinhead was spliced into an existing film. Like, they took a film and thought, it's not very good. We're going to buy this. We're going to do a few rewrites and a few reshoots and insert Pinhead here and make it a Hellraiser film.
Wow.
I know this because I'm a big fan of, I don't know if you heard of Cinema Snob, just a YouTube film reviewer. But he's reviewed all of them.
Okay.
And they're quite fun.
I did see there was one set in space.
Yeah, I think so. The obligatory horror in space, like the jumping of the shark. But I think 2 years ago there was fresh Bloodlines reimagining with Clive Barker, because Clive Barker stepped back for a good few many years and had to keep on tweeting out, "This abomination of a movie has nothing to do with me. I'm not involved. Please don't think I am. This looks terrible." But I think he was involved with this last one. I think he got middling okay reviews, but didn't wow the world. Very much like the Crow film, I guess the feeling is like, who asked for this? Just what's the trends that made you think that we needed more of this in the world? Who's petitioning for more fresh Hellraiser films? But you never know. I guess, Top Gun was a surprise smash hit.
Yeah.
I honestly thought the trailer to Top Gun was laughable and embarrassing.
No.
It was like, there's Tom Cruise, and time has passed in our world as it is his world. He's like close to retirement sort of age. He's still got that motorbike he had when he was in his early 20s. He's still got that leather jacket. He's basically reminding me of that jock from high school who got a really high wave, and I honestly thought, that's embarrassing, no? This cool character. I don't want to see that he hasn't moved on with his life. I was honestly like, that is terrible. But I still haven't seen it. People say it's blooming amazing.
You haven't seen Top Gun Maverick? Sorry, listeners, if you were here for Hellbound Heart, but what, Scott? Go. I think it's coming to Netflix at the end of the month. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah,
it is a brilliant film. Honestly, top draw.
Yeah. All right. It's just one of those films you I guess take for granted. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
I've still seen Avatar 2 or anything like that.
I haven't seen Avatar 2 either.
I mean,
Avatar was okay. It was a bit boring, but Top Gun 2 is arguably better than the original.
Wow. Is it the savior of cinema?
Oh, it got me.
I mean, we know it
cinema.
was, right? It did bring people in.
Yeah, it got me back. I took my 13-year-old daughter, and she came out and went, "That was epic."
Oh wow!
So
I think I've got a problem with Tom Cruise. You know.
Have you seen the new Mission Impossible?
No, we talked about this. You seemed a bit taken aback when I said I find them a bit soulless.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
because you were surprised that I could still watch the James Bond films and get a kick, but say that about Mission Impossible. And I think it's Cruise. I think it's just I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
I've got nothing against him.
Gets in his way.
I've got nothing against him. I just don't. I'm not like turned on to him. Just you know.
I wonder if you'd make a good Pinhead.
That's supposed to impression, but I realize I can't do impression.
Yeah. So here's one more last tidbit that's quite funny.
Oh, hit me.
The film was originally supposed to be called The Hellbound Heart, after the novella upon which it was based.
Mm-hmm.
The studio, though, decided the title sounded too much like a romance and asked Clive Barker to change it. Barker offered Sadomasochists from Beyond the Grave, which was rejected for the overly sexual content. He ultimately opened the floor to the production team to offer up their own suggestions, prompting a 60-year-old female crew member to offer up what a woman will do for a good fuck.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Wow. Talking of, it is probably what someone said at the beginning in their review, like very flat characters, and like from the wife, I don't quite think we get enough.
No.
To warrant what she's doing. I get that she feels trapped, but what was I going to say? As someone who snores. It's rough. It's rough on your partner. You have to find ways. Sometimes it's just like, sleeping buds, earbuds only get you so far, and they're not proof. And if you use them just time and time again, it's like, okay, my ears are a bit sore, so you need a break. So we have a sort of not a solid routine, but it's like we have a sort of I'll take the sofa a few nights to let you sleep, as it catches up. But I'm very sick of seeing. Let's show that this wife is unfulfilled in her life by how dull things are and how fuddy-duddy, boring her husband is. Obligatory cut to him snoring like it's not a medical condition, man. I'm serious, man. I've seen it a lot. I don't know. I think we were watching some sort of Sex in the City thing or something, and it's very like, you can't help snoring. So it's very frustrating that it's like, look at this guy. Would you want to be stuck with him? It's like, a lot of people snore. I bet bloody DiCaprio snores and Tom Cruise snores. It's not really anything you can do. It's like the equivalent of saying, oh, this guy's got glasses, isn't he square? But we've moved on from that. Glasses can be cool. I'm not saying snoring's cool. I'm just saying sometimes you can show that someone is not happy with their life, and you don't have to bring the husband down or the partner down to this really boring person that we, the audience, are going, yeah, I'd be bored of him too. Because it throws the balance off, in my opinion. Toby's laughing. I'm only semi-joking.
That's brilliant. I had not appreciated how snoring has become a characteristic of the dullard in film.
It's always been
you're completely right. I've just never noticed it, but you're totally right.
It seems very unfair. Well, it is for me being a snorer. If I wasn't, look at that loser. But I can sort of. I don't want to be an advocate for snoring. Like I say, I don't know a medical condition. It's just something you can't control. There are some people just don't diet and exercise. It's like I do. It's nothing to do with that. I went to a sleep expert. I had to spend the night. They hooked me up. They literally put this gum all over my face.
Yeah.
It's all right. It was all right. It wasn't okay. It wasn't horrible and unpleasant. I do not want to. It was just a test for sleep apnea. But there are diodes attached all over my face, my legs, my chest. I think the uncomfortable thing was that someone's monitoring these receptors all night long, and they can come loose. And they just burst in, turn the light on, and go, "Yep, one of them's come loose." And there's no there's no gently waking you up. You're just looking at, and someone's sort of trying to stick something under your eyeball.
Okay, back to sleep with you now.
And it's back to sleep.
I'll tear your soul apart.
Yeah, so many great lines in this. I don't know. Yeah, like I really enjoyed this short novel. I think its length. I guess because of its length, all its flaws were easy for me to go. Not that it doesn't matter, but like, yeah, we got some flat characters.
Yep, some ill-timed choices. Yeah, but
there's probably some feminists, even though this was written by a gay guy who at this time maybe was bi, I think. Oh no, what am I talking about? I think in the biography he said he was about 1920 when he considered himself gay, I think. But just
I was surprised I didn't know this.
Oh yeah, hey, in fact, British. He's from Liverpool. Is he Liverpudlian?
Yeah. I'd only literally just like today found that out. But now,
I don't think it's when I watch his work, it doesn't seem outside of the S&M leather stuff. But even that's probably like that's a reflection of the clubs he was going to. Not
it's definitely it reflects that period, like it said in that review, or the kink era when punk and rock and leather and sweat and HIV and all of those types of things were swirling in a melting pot of.
You put it like that. It didn't do great for stereotypes. You put it like that. Like there was a lot of backlash to certain things. What's the film with the Brian De Palma film? And it's like it's like like a lot of films in the area when they try to deal with like the twist was it's like Psycho, but the 80s era. There was a lot of backlash of like, stop showing gays to be just depraved, mentally, sexually depraved people who were just leather bound. What's that film, Cruising, with Pacino? It was like, no, everyone was just showing the extremities of homosexuality in movies. There was no fairness of like, but that's weekend work. These people still go to the office on a Monday to Friday, and you just sort of made them out to be like, full piercing, which was a part of the I guess the movement and the times, but it felt like you were just exploiting
well, it was a subset, wasn't it? It wasn't so much you can't blanket cover everybody of that era in with the same tainted brush or same brush, but there was definitely a subset that existed that people were fearful of, and that's what this book kind of taps into and realizes on the page. And it's also probably partly why the film was so successful, was because it was voyeurism to a lot of normies. There was an insight into a world that was exploring sexual depravity, handcuffing your girlfriend to the bed, and that's it.
So what do you make of the Hellbound Heart? A fan of, like, surprising, or it's such a carbon copy, or the film is such a carbon copy of the book, no surprises and exactly what you'd expect?
The biggest surprise for me was the way it was written, the language used in the writing of it, and I found that in a very similar way to what we've talked about with H.P. Lovecraft. It was like almost an antiquated way of speaking, of writing, more flamboyant, and I enjoyed that element of it.
And very to the point. Nothing lingered, nothing felt drawn out. Very like, oh, this guy looks like this. Douche. Moving on.
People like Russell Brand uses words to sound clever. And that does my head in. It annoys me, Russell Brand and his way of speaking and his flamboyancy with words and his overuse of dialect for sake of it.
You like Tony Blair, when it was just clear he had all that PR training and it's just he's sort of done a Tony Robbins or something.
Yeah. Like... Whereas this just used the words to tell the story in a succinct way, but used cool words to do that.
I guess it felt like his world.
But other than that, I didn't really get an awful lot from it. I thought it was very sort of meh. I would like to read some more of Clive Barker just to see how he progressed. I think there's one called Imaginarium or Imagica.
Imagica, yeah, big.
Yeah,
I've got a copy of that. I've been dying to get
that
it.
I would like to read that one at some point.
I think he moved into more urban fantasy, I believe they call it. So it's more not on par with American Gods, but that sort of fantasy, modern urban fantasy, I suppose. I believe there's a couple like that.
I don't the over reliance on the blood and the gore and the guts, and especially in the tipping of the veil or tipping of the vein, tapping of the vein, that was extreme.
I do think that's a staple of his. I don't know about Imagica, but I get a feeling there's the follow up to, like, for him, that was probably what he felt was part of the success. So something tells me the horror novels are going to be filled with that kind of thing. I would imagine.
So it lacks the tension that King brings to his horror. It's more gore, less tension so far, based on that one book, for me anyway. So I didn't feel for any of the characters. I didn't care for the husband, detested Frank, but then you were meant to. Kirsty was just a non and void entity that just stumbled into things, and everything was a bit too convenient.
It's the problem with the film being so close to the book in many ways that it's like I've done it a few times where I love the film and I read the book too soon. I'm just sort of going, yep, this is the bit where that happens. Okay, yep. And it's like I'm reading a novelization of the book afterwards rather than the novel that inspired the film. So I'm just waiting for it to hit the beats.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't match up, I'm going, okay, yep, they've changed that. And when it does match up, I go, okay, yep, they haven't changed that. Like I'm just not really reacting in any kind of interesting way. Because I do think most of the changes for the film were better.
yeah, definitely with Kirsty, the daughter. Like I said, the engineer was a bit bizarre.
I guess it didn't make sense in the film, but I wouldn't have picked up any of that from the film. I just thought it's opened a door into another dimension and things are trying to get. It was just a cool effect, like they had a couple of thousand left over.
Yeah. Seems like an awful lot of money was spent on that one effect for a woman running down a corridor.
But I feel like that's their climax.
Yeah, like you say, yeah, it's true.
I had great fun reading this, and it made me think I've always wished I'd never seemed to come up with the simple idea. You know, like I'm always jealous when I'm like, God, that's such a good idea, and it's so simple that you can go as simple or complex as you want. A guy accidentally opens up with a very simple box, like with, what, 3 or 4 characters really outside of the Johns. That was fun. I gotta admit, her picking up the Johns and like, why don't you come into this dank room?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's just such a simple idea on paper. You can write it in a paragraph. Like a guy pushes too hard and opens the door to parallel universe and has to get his brother's wife to just give him flesh offerings in this house. Very confined, very simple. Too simple for sure. That turns out not even too simple. I just mean plot wise, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
When we say the difference between the characters being flat and the plot are two separate issues, because I think the plot is just such a perfect, simple A, B, C, D, boom. That it just made me jealous that I can never come up with those simple ideas. That just, okay, there's very nice, not that fresh, but you can do it with a nice hook. That I really liked about it.
So what would you would you read, you're going to read more Clive Barker in the future?
Definitely Clive Barker. I've got The Great and Sorrowful Show and Imagica and The Damnation Game, which I think I'd all like to read, but they're all quite dense. I really like the film, The Midnight Meat Tree.
Oh,
so
I
want to read the book.
Penny Jones.
I think that was such a wow. I did not expect it to go where it's going. I think it's fairly short. I think it might be from his Books of the Blood, which is like a compilation of shorts, I believe. But I sort of read people don't really like the Hellraiser follow-up books.
Was it Gospels, Scarlet Gospels or something like that?
I think they're a bit longer. Maybe I'll find an audio book. I don't know. I did really, like I said, I got a kick out of reading this. And I guess I don't want to not read something because a few hardcore people, that thing of like, it's too much Pinhead, you've explained him. Or I think there's some depth to Pinhead, which famously, the more backstory you give a villain, sometimes the more you've just stripped away at it. And is it necessary?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
Do we need or want to know how Pinhead came to be Pinhead?
Yeah. Apparently, there was more about that in the second film. Explored his origins, but they cut it out and then inserted it into the third film, or reshot some stuff to flesh out his background, and it became the antagonist in the third film.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah. So Army Sergeant.
Cool. Well, listener, if you at home are a Clive Barker or a Hellbound or a Hellraiser fan or this fan, let us know your thoughts.
Please do. Like and subscribe as well. That would be wonderful. Otherwise, we'll tear your soul apart.
Yeah. And have a great day. Thanks for listening, listeners. Hey, we're going to wrap it up around there. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. Join us again next episode, and until then, support your local bookstores, and have a great day.
Are you sure you don't have a dog?
No, just a pest.